Grief reactions after the death of a child are similar to those after other losses, but they're often more intense and last longer. You may experience the following grief actions: intense shock, confusion, disbelief and denial. Even if your child's death was expected, intense anger and feelings of bitterness and unfairness at a life left unfulfilled. Fear or dread of being alone and overprotecting your surviving children, resentment towards parents with healthy children, feeling that life has no meaning, and wishing to be released from the pain of you to join your child. The pain of grief is extremely intense as parents digest the finality of never seeing their child again and the loss of future hopes and plans. While memories of the child flood their mind, they also experience a deep emptiness and unimaginable void in their lives. An injury or disease bad enough to cause death can sometimes hurt, not always, but death itself does not. I have known a few people with near-death experiences, including my own son. The experiences vary a bit, but there are some similarities. One being that they felt themselves leave their body so that they had no weight of floating sensation, and they couldn't feel their body at all. All pain left and the feeling of dying itself was very peaceful, almost like being absolutely free. There may also be an attachment component to letting yourself go. Many attachments in the material world: people, places, things, money. Letting go is hard for the living and probably just as hard in death. Not a physical pain, but more mental or of the brain and thought process. This is a remarkable story because it's actually a baby that was found alive in the morgue by her mother up to 12 hours after her mother was told she was dead. She was sealed in a coffin for all that time, but her parents wanted to see her body, and it was at that point that they found her alive. Analia Bowder and her husband, Fabian Viren, had chosen the name Lucia Abigail for their imminent arrival. Shortly after the baby girl was born, the Buenos Aires couple decided instead to name her Los Milagros Viren. The reason for the change? The name translates as miracle light in English. The circumstances of Luis Milagros' birth were certainly miraculous. Doctors had found no signs of life when she was born, 3 months premature, and made the heartbreaking decision to declare her stillborn. That she is a normal, happy and healthy infant today is because her parents insisted on saying goodbye to her in person. Luis Milagros had spent 12 hours inside a sealed coffin in the freezing cold morgue, but let out a whimper and moved slightly as the coffin lid was open. The tot had survived against all odds. The story that both shocked and captivated the world last year has now come to a heartbreaking end. The little girl Liz Milagros, who was found alive after spending more than 10 hours in the morgue, has passed away. A premature baby who survived hours in a morgue refrigerator in Argentina was in very serious condition after doctors detected an infection, state media reported. The infection could compromise Luz Milagros Viren's neurological system and kidney function, the Talim news agency reported Thursday. The 9-day-old baby was being treated with antibiotics, said Diana Vesco, chief of neonatology at the Perano Hospital in northeast Argentina. According to state news agency, the baby's survival grabbed global headlines and prompted her parents to give her a new name. Los Milagros, the Spanish words for light and miracles, pronounced dead after her premature birth on April 3. She withstood more than 10 hours in a coffin inside a morgue refrigerator before being found alive. She was a tiny thing, 1 pound. 12 ounces, cold as a frozen bottle and left for dead, but she would survive 1 week. Old Luke Milagros Viren is Argentina's miracle baby, pronounced dead after her premature birth. The baby withstood more than 10 hours in a mortgage refrigerator before being found alive. Today is the 8th day of my daughter's resurrection, the girl's father, Fabian Viren, told CNN on Wednesday. Doctors at the Perano Hospital in northeast Argentina can't explain it, and every doctor, nurse and morgue worker who dealt with the baby has been suspended as an investigation gets underway, officials said. Luis Milagros remains in stable condition, but she's in intensive care, a health official said. Analia Boutet, the baby's mother, had given birth 4 times previously and had recently suffered a miscarriage. The baby was born on April 3, 3 months early, and had no vital signs, hospital director José Luis Morano told CNN. The gynecologist on hand didn't find any signs of life, so he passed the baby to a neonatal doctor who also didn't find vital signs, Morano said. The doctors observed the baby for a while and only then pronounced her dead. The hospital followed protocol, Moreno said. 2 morgue workers then put her body inside a little wooden coffin and placed her in the freezer. Up to that point, there were still no vital signs, the hospital director said. That night, Boutet began insisting on seeing her dead daughter's body. Viren said she wanted to take a picture with her cell phone of the baby as she lay as a memory, the husband said. It took some cajoling, but finally hospital officials allowed the couple to visit the baby in the hospital more around 10 p.m. As many as 12 hours had passed since the baby had been declared dead. They put the coffin on top of a stretcher, and we looked for a little crowbar to open it because it was nailed shut, Viren told a local TV station. It was nailed shut. I put the crowbar in there and started crying. I took a breath and the lid took off. Bootstrap approached the baby's body, touched her hand and heard a cry, Viren told CNN. She jumped back. It's my imagination, she repeated. But the baby was alive and crying. Viren's brother-in-laws rushed the baby back to the neonatal ward. He clutched her close to his chest for warmth. She felt like an ice-cold bottle against his body. The relative told Viren. I can't explain what happened, only that God has performed a miracle. Viren said his daughter was given fresh, if precarious chance and along with it, a new name. She was going to be named Lucia. But after finding her alive, her parents said she would be Los Milagros, the Spanish words for light and miracles. In the meantime, an investigation has been launched at the hospital. I don't have any explanation for what happened, but if there is culpability, we'll see what we'll do, Rafael Sabatinelli, Deputy Secretary of Health in the Chaco region, told CNN. The personnel who were involved have responsibilities and therefore will have to be held accountable for their actions, he said. In a statement. Both Sabatinelli and Marino said it was the first time they had witnessed an incident like this, but that a nearly identical thing happened in Israel in 2008. In that case, a baby was found alive in a morgue refrigerator after having been declared dead. Some doctors at the time said that it was possible the low temperatures inside the refrigerator had slowed down the baby's metabolism and helped her survive. However, that baby later died. Over the next few days, it seemed that Louis was improving. But over the next 14 months, Liz would suffer from a number of health complications. She had developed mental problems, including microcephaly, for which her parents were trying to raise money for a stem cell treatment in China. Then on Sunday, she went into cardiac arrest. She remained in critical condition until passing away at 1 p.m. later that day. Prior to her passing, a full investigation was done in the hospital's proceedings regarding Luz and her mother. All workers that have been involved in the case were suspended until the investigation had been completed. According to Dr. José Luis, the hospital's director, Louis had no vital signs after birth. This was confirmed by both himself and a neonatal physician. Again, her vitals were checked before two morgue workers placed her in the coffin inside the morgue. We followed protocol, Dr. Luis told Latinopus.com. I see miracles, the truly miraculous kind of miracles, not the finding a convenient parking space when you're in a hurry kind of a miracle to argue against the existence of a loving God. But if it was true that God was performing miracles, and for clarity, I don't think that for a moment. What would it tell you about this God? It would say in completely and unambiguous terms that this God is able and prepared to intervene in the physical world to show his presence. This is not an absent God, but an active God who can and will impress his will on the world in supernatural ways. This is also a God who therefore could have, and there is no doubt should have intervened as he promised in his own Bible, to respond to the thousands of children who are being systematically abused and raped by his own priests, and were praying for it to stop. But apparently he has abhorrent moral values and prefers to facilitate and enable pedophile priests. Miracle is something that everyone thinks is not possible, let alone the person who believed in the idea and moved towards it. Miracle happens because it's the Lone Ranger's plan who never gives up on his path, no matter what comes. The saddest thing about death is nobody dies alone. They leave behind people who die different deaths each day. Children left behind die feeling alone, helpless. Suddenly the ground beneath their feet shifts. There's no rock to lean on. That sense of security, the safety, the blanket just goes missing. Spouses die seeing daily the empty sight of that. Suddenly there's only one cup on the table. No one to share your day with. There's no one to dream with. They die again when they have to put up a brave face, for the sake of children, for family. They die when they try to look for their loved one in a room full of strangers, only to realize that he or she will never be found. Parents die daily because a part of them has gone missing, and it's in its place as a wound, which will bleed and hurt till the last days of their lives. They long to touch to feel their child only to be reminded by that empty pit in their stomach that it will never happen again. Death sucks life out of those left behind. For future reference, whenever you use the term always, the thing you're talking about better be absolute. When you're dealing with human beings, there are so many variations in the human condition that using the term always may not be appropriate. People can die instantly in car crash, in a shooting, in a stroke or in any number of ways that's so fast. The person's brain never had a chance to process the event and recognize the passage from alive to dead. The only conclusion that doctors could come up with was that maybe the colder temperatures had somehow altered the metabolism and helped her survive. Whatever the reason, her death is one of the saddest we've ever shared. She'd fought so hard for so long, and now her parents and 4 siblings have lost her not once but twice. Our hearts go out to this family during this time of immense pain and sad.